Eskom's chair, or former chair at this particular point, Ben Ngubane, has resigned. Now, the state-run power utility is now under Zethembe Khoza. He fills the role on an interim basis. The utility is deeply cash-strapped. It's been the focus of a lot of infighting, especially in the ruling African National Congress Party, ever since Brian Molefe, one of President Zuma's allies, stood down as CEO amid a wave of graft allegations. He was reinstated last month, but the minister in charge of Eskom has since then reversed that reinstatement. Now, Mr. Ngubane's resignation comes after legislators said that South Africa's parliament would launch a probe next week into Eskom. Last week, local media reported on thousands upon thousands of leaked emails, which they say expose how the Gupta family, wealthy businessmen who are friends of Mr. Zuma, have used undue influence over politicians to win government contracts, and that include contracts from Eskom. Let's dig deep into this story. Sumitra Naidu joins us now live from Johannesburg with more on this. Sumitra, Mr. Ngubane cited personal reasons, according to a spokesperson for Eskom, but he's been very vocal in defending the company and the former CEO, Brian Molefe, against claims of corruption. So what personal reasons are these that would prompt him to jump ship now?
Well, Rama, news of the resignation came from the Public Enterprises Minister, Lynn Brown, and that was about it. Very little detail, just that Ngubane was leaving for personal reasons. We've heard nothing from the man himself. But news broke yesterday that he was called into a meeting and that he was on his way out. And of course, that follows an announcement by Parliament that they would be investigating Eskom. And that follows a string of emails leaked to the media in recent days that had details of Ngubane's alleged involvement in a number of deals conducted and that was benefiting the Guptas directly. And these were new details emerging of his dealings as chair of Eskom and his influence really over controversial contracts. And it came after he was initially named in the Public Protector's report on the state of capture in the country. So it was a build-up. Activist group Outer has also laid a complaint of criminal charges of alleged fraud, forgery and contravention of provisions of the Companies Act against Ngubane. Now, these also relate to the time of which Ngubane was chairman of the SABC. So there were quite a few things that led to this. Many seem to think that he wasn't actually resigning of his own accord, but he was actually asked to resign.
Indeed, so it's effectively jump before we push you out. Let's talk about the acting chair, Zethembe Khoza. What more do we know about him? Does he have an impeccable track record?
Well, we don't know about impeccable just yet, but he does seem to be a fair candidate. He's been a non-executive board member at Eskom since 2013. He was also appointed Eskom's acting CEO in 2015 when then CEO Zola Tsotsi resigned. He was also a managing executive at Telkom for over 30 years until 2012, and he doesn't really have anything behind him to suggest that there was any problems there.
Indeed. One last question for you, Sumitra. The finance minister in the spotlight again for all the wrong reasons. He approved the citizenship application for members of the Gupta family, even though they did not meet the requirements for doing so. Tell us more about that.
Well, yes, that emerged on social media yesterday when EFF leader Julius Malema tweeted 2 letters from the Department of Home Affairs. Now, one was a letter declining the application for naturalization of 3 members of the Gupta family and 2 others. That was signed off by the DG at the time, Mr. Schlatzwayo, and that was because the applicants did not meet the requirements. That letter also said that these members would need to remain in the country for a few years and reapply. It seems that there was no reapplication because the other letter from Home Affairs was signed off by Malusi Gigaba also in 2015 whilst he was Minister of Home Affairs, granting the citizenship. So it doesn't really tie up why did he suddenly sign it off. There was no details, and the letter stated that the Gupta family would have citizenship. This included the mother of the brothers. The Treasury did issue a statement earlier today saying the letters are genuine, but went on to defend the decision, explaining that Minister Gigaba has the authority to make such decisions, or he had whilst he was Minister of Home Affairs, and that he could grant citizenship in unusual circumstances, and that it's been done before. So there were no details given exactly for whom these unusual circumstances apply to. But again, it was a show of support for the Gupta family, which raises a number of questions on just how far-reaching this family's dealings run through the country.
Indeed. Quite a few questions continue to pile up. Thank you for that. That's Sumitra Naidu, of course, live in Johannesburg, South Africa.